Lance Stroll's recent performance in Brazil has sparked a lot of criticism, especially considering that he didn't even manage to start the race. The reason? A strange crash during the formation lap, where he ended up stuck in the sand despite having plenty of space on the track to get back. This incident highlights a bigger issue for Aston Martin. With their ambitions high and new management coming in, the team can no longer afford such mistakes, particularly from someone like Stroll. So, with the arrival of key figures from Newey and Honda, could we see some major changes in the Silverstone-based team? One thing's clear: Lance's place at Aston Martin has been questioned multiple times. Despite being the son of the team owner, Lawrence Stroll, the Canadian driver's performance has consistently fallen short. And while Lawrence has repeatedly stated that his son will stay with the team for as long as he's in charge, things might be different now with the arrival of Newey and Honda, who will fully begin their work at Aston Martin starting in 2025 and 2026. The latest incident in Brazil was a real low point for Stroll. After crashing in the formation lap, the fans' frustration was palpable, with many turning their attention to Felipe Drugovich, Aston Martin's reserve driver. Drugovich, who has already clinched a Formula 2 title, has been without a seat in F1, while drivers like Colapinto and Barretto, who didn't even come close to winning the F2 title, have secured spots. This situation must be frustrating for Drugovich, especially given the slim chance he has of replacing either Stroll or Alonso. After the crash in Brazil, Lance Stroll offered an explanation, saying that as soon as he applied the brakes he felt a massive rear lockup, and from that point on, he was simply along for the ride. He mentioned that he'd never experienced anything like that before and speculated that it might have been a brake failure. He also pointed out that anything can happen in racing, but to be out of the race on lap 1 was really disappointing. Of course, the team will need to investigate the issue, but there's no hiding the fact that Stroll's performance is raising more questions than answers. For Aston Martin, this is particularly painful because their pace in Brazil revealed just how far behind they are. While both of their cars managed to make it into Q3, something that even top teams like Mercedes and Red Bull failed to achieve, their race pace was dismal. Fernando Alonso, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid, even stated that Aston Martin was likely the 9th or 10th fastest team in the race. This puts the team in a tough spot looking ahead to 2025. With their goals set higher, the question is, can Stroll continue as part of this evolving team? Team principal Mike Crack has previously praised Stroll for his technical understanding, highlighting the value he brings off track with his insights into the car's development. However, technical know-how and actual performance on the track are two very different things. Unfortunately for Stroll, despite his ability to provide feedback, he's failed to deliver when it counts, especially when it comes to scoring consistent points. If things don't change, Aston Martin could very well find themselves struggling at the back of the grid in 2025. As we look towards 2025, the question of whether Lance Stroll is the right driver for Aston Martin becomes even more pressing. With the new era of technical improvements and the involvement of both Newey and Honda, there's little room for underperformance. Aston Martin wants to compete at the front, and that's no secret. However, as much as Mike Crack has defended Stroll's technical input, it's clear that Stroll's driving skills haven't matched the team's ambitions. In fact, with a car that has the potential to be much faster, Stroll's inability to extract the maximum performance is becoming a growing concern. Meanwhile, there are whispers that Aston Martin might be looking for a change at the wheel. Two names are coming up repeatedly in discussions about replacing Stroll drivers from the Red Bull camp: Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda. While the idea of Verstappen leaving Red Bull seems far-fetched, it's not entirely out of the question. If Red Bull doesn't develop the car as expected for 2025, Verstappen might find himself in a position where he has to consider his future. Red Bull's advisor, Helmut Marko, has previously stated that Verstappen's career is driven by one thing: winning. If the car underperforms, it could prompt Verstappen to look for opportunities elsewhere. Verstappen has also made comments about driving aggressively due to the car's weaknesses, which further adds to the speculation. If Red Bull's performance falters in 2025, he might be more inclined to seek a new challenge. And if he does leave, Aston Martin could be the perfect landing spot. After all, they will have one of the most modern facilities, a wind tunnel operational, and Honda engines powering their cars. All of this fits with the upward trajectory Aston Martin is aiming for, especially with figures like Newey involved. The possibility of Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull and joining Aston Martin may still seem like a distant idea, but the pieces are falling into place. Aston Martin is aiming to become a powerhouse in F1, And with new resources like the state-of-the-art wind tunnel and the upcoming Honda engines, they're positioning themselves for a leap forward. As much as Verstappen is tied to Red Bull right now, it's impossible to ignore the potential for a move in the future, especially if things don't go as planned for the team. Jos Verstappen, Max's father, even hinted that his son drives aggressively because he needs to extract the best out of a car that isn't always perfect. If Red Bull doesn't deliver the results Verstappen expects, he may consider moving to a team that can offer him a winning car year after year. Aston Martin's investment in top-tier talent, including Andy Cowell from Mercedes and Enrico Cardal from Ferrari, shows their commitment to creating a competitive car for the future. With Newey's involvement, it's clear the team is focused on building something special. The addition of Honda engines also gives them a strong technical foundation to challenge the top teams. If Aston Martin is serious about challenging for championships, they need a driver capable of leading the charge. That driver could very well be Verstappen, especially if the stars align in the coming years. But Verstappen isn't the only candidate. Yuki Tsunoda, currently with Red Bull's sister team AlphaTauri, has also been linked to Aston Martin. Tsunoda's connection with Honda is no secret, and Honda has always been keen to maintain strong ties with their drivers. In fact, Tsunoda's future at Red Bull is uncertain, and there are indications that if he doesn't secure a seat at Red Bull, he could easily transition to Aston Martin. This would make sense, especially considering Honda's close relationship with the team. Tsunoda has shown promise, and if he's given the opportunity, he could thrive in a more competitive environment. The situation for Lawrence Stroll and Aston Martin is becoming increasingly complex. On one hand, there's the reality that his son Lance has struggled to live up to the team's expectations. On the other hand, there's the emotional connection and the desire to keep Lance in the team, especially given his ownership role. However, as the team continues to grow and evolve, the pressure to succeed will only intensify. Newey and Honda will expect results, and they won't wait around forever if Stroll continues to underperform. Aston Martin's future in Formula One is beginning to shift. With the incoming technical upgrades and the partnership with Honda, the team is primed for success, but they need the right driver to take full advantage of the potential. Alonso, while still a formidable presence, can't carry the team forever. As he enters the later stages of his career, Aston Martin will need someone to build their future around someone capable of fighting for championships. Verstappen, with his skill and experience, seems like the perfect candidate. If Red Bull falters, Aston Martin would be an attractive option for him. At the same time, Tsunoda is quietly positioning himself as a strong alternative. His relationship with Honda gives him a significant advantage, and Aston Martin might look to him as a more affordable option to replace Stroll. The team would need to decide whether they want a proven, established winner like Verstappen or a younger, promising talent like Tsunoda to join Alonso in the battle for future titles. The choice for Lawrence Stroll is clear: continue to back his son, or make the tough call and move the team forward with a driver who has the potential to lead them to the top. As the team transitions into the next phase of its development, this decision could have long-lasting consequences for the future of Aston Martin in Formula One. As we look ahead, it's becoming increasingly clear that Aston Martin's future in Formula One is hanging in the balance. With the technical expertise of Andy Cowell, the innovation of Enrico Cardal, and the influence of Adrian Newey, the team is set to make major strides in the coming years. However, there's one key factor that could either make or break their plans: who will be driving the car. Lance Stroll, despite his father's backing, has not shown the consistent performance that a team like Aston Martin needs to move forward. His recent performances, particularly in Brazil, have only intensified the questions around his future with the team. The fact that reserve driver Felipe Drugovich has been drawing the attention of fans only highlights the frustration surrounding Stroll's position. The situation is no longer just about a father supporting his son, it's about the team's future and whether or not they can compete at the highest level. It's important to note that Lawrence Stroll is also gradually selling off small shares of Aston Martin to other investors like Arctos and Adrian Newey himself. This shift in ownership dynamics could lead to more outside influence over decision-making, especially when it comes to driver selection. With the heavy involvement of Newey and the push for results from Honda, it's likely that the team will soon need to make a tough decision whether or not to stick with Lance or to bring in a driver who can help Aston Martin achieve its goals. The next few months will be critical for Aston Martin as they prepare for 2025 and beyond. If the team wants to challenge for championships, they may need a new face in the driver's seat. Verstappen and Tsunoda are the leading candidates, with Verstappen being a potential game-changer if Red Bull falters. Tsunoda, meanwhile, offers a promising option with his close ties to Honda. Whatever happens, it's clear that Aston Martin is on the cusp of a major transformation. The question is whether Lance Stroll will still be part of that transformation, or whether the team will choose a new direction with a driver who can lead them to success. One thing is certain: the pressure is on, and the decisions made in the next few years will shape the future of Aston Martin in F1 for a long time to come.